let's read it first. Many of William Shakespeare's tragedies address broad themes that still appeal to today's audiences. For instance, Romeo and Juliet, which is set in the Italy of Shakespeare's time, tackles the themes of parents versus children and love versus hate, and the play continues to be read and produced widely around the world. But understanding Shakespeare's so called history plays can require a knowledge of several centuries of English history, consequently, blank. So, his tragedies, they are very popular. But if you look at his so called history plays, they require knowledge of several centuries of English history. So, A is the best answer in this case because this one says many theatre goers and readers today are likely to find Shakespeare's history plays less engaging than the tragedies. Because according to the text, Shakespeare's tragedies address broad themes that continue to appeal to today's audiences. So they do still appeal to today's audiences because we still have the parent versus children, love versus hate kind of themes which even today people like. Today's audiences. Indeed, the text suggests that these themes are timeless, as illustrated by the example of Romeo and Juliet. They have even given the example, which the text states is still read and widely performed despite being set in the Italy of Shakespeare's time. But what about, in contrast, the text indicates that audiences and readers may need to be familiar with several centuries of English history in order to understand. What about the other plays which he has written about English history? Understand Shakespeare's history plays because many theatre goers and readers are unlikely to possess such extensive historical knowledge. It follows that they are likely to find Shakespeare's history plays less engaging than his more accessible tragedies. So for today's youth, Romeo and Juliet and these kind of other timeless tragedies are more appealing than the history plays. History plays because they require some knowledge of history. And B says some of Shakespeare's tragedies are more relevant to today's audiences than 20th century plays. This is incorrect because the text never introduces a comparison between Shakespeare's tragedies and 20th century plays. There is never a comparison between Shakespeare's tragedies and the 20th century plays in this passage, only between Shakespeare's tragedies and his own history plays. So since 20th century plays aren't mentioned, there is no basis that some of Shakespeare's tragedies are more relevant than 20th century plays to today's audience. We cannot say that with this information. Choice C, Romeo and Juliet is the most thematically accessible of all Shakespeare's tragedies. This is incorrect because although the text indicates that Romeo and Juliet is thematically accessible to today's audiences, it doesn't suggest that Romeo and Juliet is more accessible than Shakespeare's other tragedies. Rather, the text presents Romeo and Juliet as an example to support the idea that Shakespeare's tragedies hold continued appeal for today's readers and theatre goers. And D says experts in English history tend to prefer Shakespeare's history plays to his other works. This is incorrect because although experts in history would likely possess the knowledge needed to understand Shakespeare's history plays, the text never mentions such experts or suggests that they would enjoy the history plays more than Shakespeare's other works. So we don't have that information about experts in history tending to prefer. Nothing like that is mentioned. So I hope that's